Hello, it's Mr. Burns here, and we're going to transition from root to democracy to the branches of government, the U.S. government, and how our government is organized. In this unit, we're going to talk about the three branches of government: legislative, executive, judicial. And for each one, we're going to have a set of vocabulary, and for each one, we're going to have a quiz. It's a long unit. We'll go into the end of February or beginning of March with this unit. So make sure you keep yourself organized, keep up on your study guide, keep up on your vocab, because it's going to be a big test at the end of this unit. So set number one is all about vocabulary. So remember, all about the legislative branch. Remember, when you do your vocabulary, your own definition needs to be a unique definition, something that's going to help you remember, or an example. And picture visual should be colored, and it should represent the word in a way you can get things from the internet if you don't feel comfortable drawing. Your homework tonight will be to do 1 to 10 in your study guide. If you want, I'm telling you right now, you can go a little bit ahead if you want to do some of the definitions for the last 4 words. There's 14 words that will appear on here. You can go ahead and do some of those, the different federalism powers. Okay, you might want to wait till we get our notes next class though. Okay, so here's your due dates. And remember, there's going to be a quiz on that date, so make sure you write the due date down at the top of your handout. And it's all going to be about the legislative branch and federalism powers. All right, so our first word is annual. And annual just means yearly. And Congress needs to approve the annual budget that is prepared by the president every year. All right, second word is bicameral. Congress is bicameral, meaning it's 2 parts. It has the House of Representatives and the Senate. That was a compromise between large and small states called the Great Compromise. New Jersey wanted small states represented, equal membership. Virginia, at the time, was the largest state, wanted, based on population, they came to this agreement, this bicameral legislature. All right, a bill is like a rough draft of a law. It has to be introduced by a senator or a member of the House of Representatives. And then there's this process that we're going to talk about where they work in committee and debate and vote, and it goes to the other house, and then eventually, if it gets to the president can sign or veto the law. Okay, so the bill is a rough draft. Yes, we will watch the Schoolhouse Rock video, as you are probably guessing. All right, the next word is commerce, which is having to do with business or trade. So commerce. The legislative branch is responsible for regulating interstate commerce. All right, so going to the next page, the word is foreign policy. And that is how we deal with other countries. It's our policies dealing with these nations that might be our enemies and they might be our friends. But Congress is the only group that can deal with foreign nations. States and local governments cannot do that, only the national government. All right, to impeach, only 2 presidents, almost 3. Richard Nixon resigned before he was impeached, but there were 2 presidents impeached. To be impeached does not mean to be removed from office. No, it does not. It means to be charged with a crime, especially if you're a government official. So Bill Clinton was impeached. Andrew Johnson was impeached. Neither of them was removed from office. Andrew Johnson by 1 vote. Bill Clinton, it wasn't even that close. Nixon probably would have been removed with what he did. We'll talk about that later this unit. All right, interstate is between states. So again, I mentioned earlier that the legislative branch at the national level is responsible for regulating trade between states. It was one of the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation, that there was no way to do that, so it was established in the Constitution. All right, a legislature is a lawmaking body. Our legislature, as I mentioned before, is bicameral, 2 houses, just like the one at the state level of Virginia as well, which we'll talk about in Unit 5, a little bit in Unit 4, and then Unit 5. Okay. All right, so next is override. So this is something that Congress can do. If they pass a law and the president vetoes it, Congress has the ability to check the president by overriding that veto. What that means is that 2/3 of each house needs to vote to override the veto. Not easy to do. Once it's vetoed, it's very hard to get overridden. But if it's something that Congress is very passionate about and they have agreement on both sides of the political spectrum, it could happen. Doesn't happen very often, though. All right, to regulate is to set rules for or manage. And one of the things that Congress does is they do a lot of regulating in business and making sure that business is performing in a certain way so that they are not overstepping their bounds. They have certain rules and regulations that they must follow. Okay, now we're getting into our federalism powers. And the federalism powers are, 4 different types of powers. It's either national, state, both. Who has the power? And federalism is the division of power between the national and the state governments. So let's look at these different powers. The first one is our express powers. And these are powers given to the national government, and they're listed in the Constitution. Declare war, regulate interstate trade, approve the budget, etc. Okay, these are things that are given to the national government. Only the national government can deal with foreign nations. Okay, only the national government can create a currency, things of that nature, things that unite the states, and everything is unique, or not everything is uniform from state to state. Okay, then we have implied powers. Implied powers are those that are given to the national government, but they're not specifically listed. In other words, maybe there was some kind of invention that happened that allows Congress to expand its powers. For example, there was no such thing as an airplane when the Constitution was written, but now we have a U.S. Air Force. Well, this is an implied power because a new invention occurred. Congress needs the Air Force to protect us and as part of the military, so we created the U.S. Air Force. Minimum wage, another example. We never had hourly wages until the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so now we need to figure out a way for the government to promote the general welfare of people. We establish a minimum wage. This is called the elastic cause or the necessary and proper cause. So Congress can do what is necessary and proper in order to carry out express powers. All right, the next is reserve powers. This is the 10th Amendment. These are powers that are saved or reserved or given to the states and the people. These are powers that the national government doesn't really play too much of a role in, although over the course of the last few decades, Congress has gotten more and more involved in some of these reserve powers, and the states aren't happy about it. Schools and education is for one. Establishing local governments is another. And another example would be public health and safety within the states, and as well as elections and voting. States conduct their own elections. So the marriage divorce laws, but you saw that with the same-sex marriage Supreme Court case, that this is where the national government is stepping into the states. Okay? And then our last one is concurrent powers. And these are powers shared by the national and state governments. They work together. So we have establishing laws. We have national laws. We have state laws. We have establishing roads. National roads, like interstates. State roads, like Braddock Road, Route 620, that's a state road. Local road, Burke Center Parkway is a Fairfax County road, or Fairfax County Parkway, for example. We have collecting taxes. We have federal income tax, we have state income tax, we have local taxes. So these are examples of concurrent powers where you see it at all levels of government. Okay, so now you got to make sure that you complete this for homework. Complete the 2 columns on the right by the due date suggested, and finish up your study guide that is required for tonight.